Welcome to an account that may transform your perspective on achievement. Welcome to a narrative that will not just resonate emotionally, but will endure in your memory permanently. You aren't merely viewing a film today. You're gaining access to the genuine existence of one of the planet's most renowned, cherished, and indomitable figures. A man who elicited global amusement while concealing profound suffering. A person who leaped from elevated structures, fractured his skeletal frame, ruptured his cranium, and damaged his physique solely to bring us enjoyment. A man who ascended to worldwide superstardom, yet never experienced a genuine youth. His designation is Jackie Chan. But this isn't the cinematic Jackie Chan you recognize. This is the youth forsaken by his guardians. The child subjected to harsh physical correction for order. The professional stunt performer who repeatedly skirted fatality for a single supplementary take. The icon who amassed vast fortunes only to bequeath them entirely. And the elderly gentleman now surveying his journey, questioning if he neglected to truly live. Within this presentation, you'll uncover the severe preparation Jackie endured as a youngster. The emotional agony of being estranged from his kin for a decade, the perilous feats that nearly terminated his existence, the isolation accompanying universal acclaim, the remorse he harbors regarding his offspring, and the definitive reality he grasped following decades of self-denial. You'll likewise ascertain how authentic triumph is forged, not via facile avenues, but through rigor, setbacks, distress, and bravery. Furthermore, here's the finest aspect. This viewing will enhance your English proficiency. As you absorb this account narrated in effortless, heartfelt, lucid English, your mind will establish deep associations with authentic lexicon, natural phrasing, and compelling narration. You'll do more than just learn about Jackie Chan. You'll commence thinking in English as the story permeates your consciousness. So prepare yourself. Get set for a saga that is not merely moving, not merely galvanizing, but one that will remain with you for a lifetime. Let's commence. Chapter 1. The Homeless Boy. Jackie Chan's Tormented Origin. Jackie Chan was not brought into affluence. He wasn't born robust and certainly not renowned. He arrived as an impoverished youngster in Hong Kong on April 7, 1954. His birth designation was Chan Kong, signifying born in Hong Kong because his parents had recently fled the civil conflict in mainland China. They were displaced persons. They possessed nothing. His father, Charles Chan, earned his living as a culinary professional. His mother, Li Chan, served as a domestic helper. They lacked funds for playthings. They had no spare time for affection. They weren't even equipped to raise a young one. Consequently, upon Jackie's arrival, they entrusted him to others for several years simply to secure their own survival. He grew up by himself, and the sole concept he comprehended, even as a little child, was this: I must become resilient. No one is arriving to effect my rescue. When Jackie reached the age of 6, a pivotal event reshaped his trajectory eternally. His parents secured a work prospect in Australia. It represented a significant opportunity for them, yet they couldn't bring Jackie along. Thus they enacted a choice that would leave a lasting emotional wound within him. They left him behind. They enrolled him in an institution termed the China Drama Academy, a residential facility intended for young Chinese opera performers. However, it functioned less like an academic setting and more like a paramilitary barracks for juveniles. The institution's director was a severe individual named Master Yu Jim Yuen, and Jackie instantly became one of his pupils. At merely 6 years old, Jackie was plunged into an environment characterized by agony, inflexible discipline, and ceaseless practice. The children would awaken prior to dawn. They received no morning meal. They never experienced joy. They had no periods of respite. They drilled from the break of day until late evening. They conditioned their physiques, their vocal cords, their suppleness, and their reflexes. Should they lament, they faced strikes. If errors occurred, penalties were imposed. If they stumbled, they were commanded to rise immediately. There was zero empathy. There was no warmth. There were no weekends. There were no holidays. There were no guardians present. They rested upon hard wooden surfaces. They consumed meager rations. They utilized a single communal washing facility. The master was a staunch advocate of penance through suffering. He compelled the boys to sustain handstands for protracted durations. He manually extended their legs to enforce complete splits. He chastised them with rods if they failed to recall a spoken part. And this regimen persisted daily for a full decade. Jackie once remarked in a conversation, "I would weep each day, but absolutely no one took notice. I only yearned to see my folks, yet they never materialized." That is the aspect of Jackie's background that remains untold. Behind every grin you've witnessed on film resided a child who felt abandoned, unvalued, and internally fractured. Inside the academy, Jackie befriended fellow boys who would evolve into his comrades. Collectively, they were designated the Seven Little Fortunes. It resembled a troupe of elite students renowned for their prowess in acrobatics, martial arts, and performance. They toured extensively across Hong Kong staging shows to earn subsistence funds. The chief of this collective was Jackie. Even at that juncture, he possessed exceptional innate ability. He could execute somersaults. He could vault through circular hoops. He could combat, vocalize, tumble, and move rhythmically all within a single presentation. He wasn't participating out of sheer fondness. He was doing so because no alternative existed, and deep within his core, he maintained the aspiration that one day his parents would retrieve him. But that never transpired. By the time Jackie reached 10 years of age, he lacked parents, possessions for amusement, respite periods, any genuine external companions, a comfortable resting place, physical affection, or anyone to affirm, "You're excelling." All he possessed were his internal distress and his vision. If I exert myself sufficiently, perhaps eventually the world will acknowledge my presence. From age 6 until age 17, Jackie inhabited that torturous environment. Yet he didn't succumb. In fact, it rendered him significantly more robust than anyone could have imagined. He mastered controlling discomfort, smiling despite affliction, achieving flawless execution after 1,000 missteps, adhering to directives, leading others, making sacrifices, and preserving modesty. Since regardless of his acquired skill level, the master never bestowed commendation. This was the Jackie Chan unknown to the public, the youth conscript, the reserved entertainer, the solitary warrior. He didn't elect this existence, but it became the bedrock for everything he would later embody. When Jackie finally departed the China Drama Academy at 17, he held no official credentials, no university diploma, no monetary reserves, and zero familial backing. He had dedicated over a decade to rigorous preparation akin to an automaton. But now that conditioning had concluded, he stepped into the tangible reality, and absolutely no one was concerned with his identity. There were no employment solicitations awaiting, no admirers, no applause, no safety net. Merely an infinite metropolis teeming with scores of other boys akin to him, all striving for subsistence. He had only one recourse: to become a stunt specialist. and not a secure, comfortable one like those in Hollywood. In Hong Kong, stunt personnel were viewed as disposable implements. Producers disregarded well-being. Directors were unconcerned with physical harm. Should you sustain injury, they would simply substitute you with another individual. But Jackie had no alternative. He needed sustenance. He needed a future. So he assented and stepped directly into the most perilous segment of his life. Jackie began his work as an uncredited performer in low-budget martial arts features. He wasn't the protagonist. He wasn't even the antagonist. He was the person positioned in the background who receives one blow and collapses. Occasionally he portrayed a brigand, at times a guard, at other times simply combatant number 4. No one noted his name. No one assigned him dialogue. No one even furnished him with appropriate protective apparatus. All they furnished was a swift instruction. Leap from here. Receive a strike. Fall down. Suppress your tears. And Jackie obeyed every command. He vaulted from ledges, rolled down staircases, smashed through wooden surfaces, fell flat upon his back, impacted with his face, was struck upon his molars, hit with genuine timber clubs, hurled against walls, very nearly suffocated, lost dental structures, suffered joint dislocations, and once nearly fractured his neck. But he never uttered a refusal. Why? Because deep inside he harbored a solitary aspiration. If I execute this superiorly to everyone else, perhaps someday they will recall my existence. One specific instance in the early 1970s, Jackie secured employment as a stuntman for a motion picture titled Enter the Dragon. And this wasn't a mundane picture. It was the inaugural major Hollywood martial arts production. And the leading man was none other than Bruce Lee. Bruce was already a luminary, a worldwide symbol. Every stunt artist desired to collaborate with him, even for brief seconds. And Jackie gained his opportunity. In one sequence, Jackie was slated to sprint toward Bruce and receive a powerful impact to demonstrate Bruce's might. That was the extent of it. 1 second of agony, 1 second of visibility. Jackie ran. Bruce struck him forcefully with a pole, and Jackie collapsed with such impact that he momentarily lost his bearings. But what followed next altered Jackie's life trajectory. Bruce Lee halted the take, hurried over, and assisted Jackie to rise. He softly touched Jackie's head and inquired, "Are you feeling all right?" It was a minor occurrence, yet for Jackie, it marked the initial time an influential person acknowledged his presence. He feigned lingering discomfort merely to savor a few extra moments of Bruce Lee's benevolence. That solitary second fueled Jackie's conviction. If Bruce Lee can attain global celebrity, perhaps I can as well. But I must devise my unique path, because Jackie recognized a fundamental truth. He could never emulate Bruce Lee. Bruce Lee was severe, potent, flawless, and absolute. But Jackie was perpetually stumbling, perpetually disorganized, perpetually humorous. So Jackie made a resolute choice. I will not mimic Bruce Lee. I will forge an identity that no one else possesses. I will be the individual who engages in combat and then stumbles, who fights and then laughs, who fights and sustains injury but always recovers. That was the instant Jackie commenced shaping his destiny. Even subsequent to working alongside Bruce Lee, Jackie's circumstances didn't transform overnight. For several years, he remained just another anonymous figure receiving on-camera blows. Producers mocked him. Directors overlooked him. No one offered him a primary part. Some even declared, "Your facial structure isn't suited for cinema. You appear amusing. You don't articulate like a hero. You cannot assume the main role." This would have crushed the majority of individuals, but Jackie persevered. He labored 18 hours daily, slept upon studio flooring, consumed inexpensive noodle dishes. Occasionally, he wasn't even compensated. But daily he trained. He analyzed the movements of other performers. He honed his facial expressions to convey feeling. He studied the art of humor. He conditioned his physical form to collapse without catastrophe, yet project the appearance of intense trauma. He rehearsed thousands of maneuvers until they appeared authentic yet thoroughly managed, because Jackie held a concealed objective. One day I will invent a novel archetype of a hero who elicits your laughter while bleeding, a hero who doesn't invariably triumph but never relinquishes the effort. In 1978, Jackie was extended an invitation for a feature in a motion picture titled Snake in the Eagle's Shadow. It was a modestly budgeted martial arts comedy. But for the initial occasion, Jackie was permitted to fuse gymnastics with comedy. He portrayed an inept, somewhat ludicrous young male who acquires kung fu through unconventional techniques, employing jest, surprise, and rapid choreography. The viewership adored it. They had witnessed nothing remotely comparable. Jackie prompted them to laugh, then to fight, then to collapse, then to prevail. He wasn't impeccable like Bruce Lee, but he was genuine. He was the relatable chap who faltered, incurred wounds, and nevertheless managed to stand firm. The feature achieved considerable success, and then another followed, Drunken Master. And instantaneously, Jackie Chan became a name that people recalled. He had discovered his signature method. Not Bruce Lee's approach, not anyone else's technique, but the Jackie Chan doctrine. Pain, mirth, mayhem, perilous feats, comedy, and bravery. Jackie didn't achieve fortune by chance. He didn't associate with influential figures. He didn't possess wealthy antecedents. He received no special assistance. He constructed himself through pain, tumbles, failures, fractures, and quiet, dedicated practice across numerous years. And now he was finally prepared to advance to the subsequent phase, becoming more than just a celebrity in Hong Kong. He desired the whole world, but the world wasn't yet receptive to him. Part 2. Jackie Chan versus the West. The arduous path to worldwide recognition. By the conclusion of the 1970s, Jackie Chan had finally attained stardom within Hong Kong. Following years of broken bones, denials, and humiliation, he was now the visage of kung fu humor. His films such as Drunken Master and Snake in the Eagle's Shadow rendered him a familiar name. Audiences were captivated by his swiftness, his wit, and his particular flair. And Jackie, he remained uncontent. He looked beyond Hong Kong's boundaries, past China, past all of Asia. He craved global reach. He aimed to penetrate Hollywood, the most expansive cinematic production sphere on the globe. Because for him, genuine success implied more than local renown. It meant being recognized universally. But what Jackie failed to comprehend was that Hollywood was unprepared for his style, and his subsequent venture would prove to be one of the most agonizing, mortifying, and challenging phases of his existence. In 1980, Jackie received an invitation to perform within the United States. It felt like the realization of a lifelong aspiration. An American producer had viewed his Hong Kong productions and thought, "This fellow has the potential to be the successor to Bruce Lee." They assigned Jackie the lead role in a picture named The Big Brawl. It was his premiere, starring function in a production conducted in the English language. The producers were enthusiastic. Jackie was elated. Everyone anticipated a major triumph. But the moment filming commenced, Jackie discerned that something was amiss. The American director failed to grasp Jackie's style. He wanted Jackie to engage in combat with the gravity and measured pace of Bruce Lee. But Jackie was definitively not Bruce Lee. He attempted to propose concepts, rapid sequences, humorous reactions, audacious stunts, but the director insisted, negative, execute it in the conventional American manner. Jackie experienced frustration and felt unheard. No one acknowledged his inventive suggestions. No one permitted him to present his authentic self. He was an invited guest within another's established structure. When the film eventually premiered, it was a disappointment. American viewers didn't connect with Jackie. Asian viewers disliked the Americanized version of him, and critics commented, "This actor is attempting to mimic Bruce Lee, yet he falls considerably short." Jackie felt embarrassed, disheartened, and irritated. He had departed Hong Kong at the pinnacle of his accomplishments, and now he was being met with derision in the very nation he intended to conquer. But Jackie didn't surrender. He entered into a contract for another American production, The Cannonball Run. It was a comedic feature alongside established Hollywood figures like Burt Reynolds and Roger Moore. Jackie was given a minor role as a Japanese chauffeur. There existed one considerable flaw. Jackie is not Japanese. He is Chinese, but the producers exhibited indifference. They were unaware of the distinction. To them, all individuals of East Asian descent were essentially interchangeable. Jackie, being excessively courteous to object, donned the attire. He smiled for the lens. He delivered the prescribed dialogue, and once more the film did nothing to advance his career. He was utilized as ornamentation, not as a genuine performer. He was slotted into features merely to occupy a vacant position. And the most challenging aspect, he couldn't converse fluently in English. Thus, during interviews, Jackie struggled to articulate his thoughts. He felt intellectually deficient, insignificant, and lost in cross-cultural communication. He returned to Hong Kong not as a world-renowned figure, but as a man who had tasted the sting of rejection from the world's preeminent entertainment platform. Following his failure in Hollywood, the majority would have capitulated. They would have concluded, "I'm inadequate. This isn't my designated moment. People like me aren't accepted here." But Jackie adopted a different approach. He returned to Hong Kong, consulted with his production unit, and declared, "We are going to engineer something unprecedented." They dismissed me. I shall furnish them with compelling justification to seek my involvement. He resolved to produce films entirely in his own image, integrating daring acrobatics, genuine physical duress, brisk action sequences, Hong Kong cultural elements, globally competitive narrative structure, humor, and heartfelt sentiment alongside Jackie's unmistakable grin. He pioneered a novel cinematic category. Not orthodox martial arts, not typical Hollywood action, but a blend of the two. And this time, he maintained absolute command. He directed the pictures himself, devised the fight choreography himself, engineered the stunts himself, and even recorded the introductory musical themes in Mandarin. He became a singular creative powerhouse. From 1985 through 1995, Jackie produced successive features, each one more daring than its predecessor. Some of his most emblematic creations from this period include Police Story, where he glides down a 5-story vertical pole adorned with illumination fixtures, Project A, in which he plummets from a clock tower, impacting his head, Armor of God, where he leaps between arboreal structures and sustains a serious cranial fracture, and Rumble in the Bronx, where he sprains his ankle but continues filming while wearing a sock colored to resemble footwear. Every single production involved authentic jeopardy, actual bloodshed, and genuine Jackie Chan suffering. He shunned stand-ins. He didn't employ digital augmentation. He believed, if I wish the observers to apprehend something authentic, then my actions must be authentic. These films attained legendary status across Asia, Europe, and even sections of Africa and South America. Gradually, the West began to take notice. American admirers started querying, who is this individual? Why does he jeopardize his well-being in every film? This surpasses anything we currently offer in Hollywood. Hollywood executives started paying attention, and this time they didn't seek to regulate Jackie. They desired to incorporate him precisely as he was. By the late 1990s, Jackie was approaching 45 years of age. He had already sustained multiple fractures to his digits, his nasal bone more than 5 separate times, his ribs, his teeth, his cranium, his ankles, and his spinal column. He had executed over 1,000 difficult maneuvers, many without official sanction or safety protocols. He had very nearly perished on more than 10 occasions during production, but he maintained his smile, continued his physical feats, and clung to his ambition. Then arrived a final substantial opportunity. An American producer proposed the principal role to him in a fresh buddy cop comedic feature named Rush Hour. Jackie reviewed the manuscript. It possessed wit. It was energetic. And his co-star would be Chris Tucker, a spirited, verbose African-American humorist. It was an optimal juxtaposition, and Jackie consented. Few anticipated its success, but when Rush Hour premiered in 1998, it was a phenomenon. Rush Hour became one of the most significant action comedy blockbusters in history. Jackie's fight sequences, facial expressions, spoken delivery, timing, and rapport with Chris Tucker were celebrated globally. He was finally embraced not as the successor to Bruce Lee, but as the inaugural and sole Jackie Chan. And following Rush Hour came Shanghai Noon, then Rush Hour 2, then The Tuxedo, then The Medallion, and subsequently even voice-acting roles such as Master Monkey in Kung Fu Panda. The same man who was once ridiculed, turned away, and disregarded by Hollywood was now invited, respected, garlanded, and adored by Hollywood. For the first time in his lifespan, Jackie Chan was no longer struggling for recognition, no longer pursuing celebrity, no longer fighting for a breakthrough. He had ascended to the status of a universal figurehead. From Hong Kong to the global center of cinema, everyone knew his title. His productions were ubiquitous. In every movie house, on every television set, in every dialect. He possessed wealth, accolades, a dedicated following, esteem, and an extensive roster of directors eager to collaborate with him. But an element felt incomplete. In reality, he was experiencing something more profound than vacancy. He was experiencing culpability. Because while he was scaling the summit of achievement, there was one sphere of his existence he had left far in the distance, his kinship. And the initial individual that occupied his thoughts was his son. Jackie Chan was the father of J.C. Chan, born in 1982. Jackie was 28 at the time, already an ascending figure in Hong Kong. But even when J.C. arrived, Jackie wasn't prepared to assume the mantle of fatherhood. He was perpetually engaged, working relentlessly on film sets, breaking through panes of glass, falling from multi-story buildings, undertaking promotional circuits, and traversing continents. He wasn't present at home. He missed parent-teacher meetings. He didn't attend athletic contests or celebrations. He didn't instruct his son in cycling or problem-solving methodologies. Instead, Jackie rationalized. If I accumulate more capital, I can secure a superior prospect for my son. But what JC truly desired wasn't wealth. He yearned for his father's presence. By the time Jackie grasped this, it was too late. JC had matured feeling overlooked, unseen, and uncherished. In interviews, Jackie conceded that JC was frequently raised by his mother, household aides, and private tutors, but seldom encountered his father. And when they conversed, Jackie was not gentle. He was demanding. He was distant. He was ill-equipped to be emotionally accessible. Years later, Jackie penned in his autobiography, "When I contemplate my son, I feel I have performed poorly. I was excessively fixated on professional ascendancy. I furnished him with everything externally, except for my actual self." He admitted that he once struck JC with such force during a disagreement that his spouse had to intervene, exhibiting alarm. He later remarked, "I regret that moment daily." Jackie had been raised undergoing physical chastisement from his master. That was his method of instilling structure. But he failed to realize his son was not a reflection of himself. JC wasn't a fighter. He wasn't pursuing a stunt career. He wasn't endeavoring to be a martial artist. He simply wished to be a son. But Jackie remained oblivious, blinded by his drive. JC attempted to follow in his father's professional footsteps, entering the entertainment industry. He studied musical composition. He experimented with acting. But every time he appeared on screen, the commentary was, "That's Jackie Chan's offspring. Let's observe if he matches his father. He absolutely must be exceptional." The strain was crushing, and JC battled to forge his own sense of self. He had no desire to execute aerial maneuvers off precipices. He didn't wish to battle 10 opponents simultaneously. He desired to sing, create artistic works, and simply exist authentically. But to be the progeny of Jackie Chan means the world refuses to permit you to be ordinary. Jackie once stated, "I bestowed excessive amounts upon my son. I attempted to compensate for my non-attendance by granting every request he made: luxury vehicles, sophisticated gadgets, opportunities, but I neglected to instill core principles. That was my misstep." He believed he was expressing devotion through material gifts, but what he neglected was attentiveness, emotional connection, patience, and active listening. In 2014, JC was apprehended in Beijing for possessing prohibited substances. The news circulated globally in an instant. He was sentenced to a 6-month period of incarceration. The offspring of Jackie Chan, celebrated for discipline, physical strength, and moral rectitude, was now confined. The press went into a frenzy. Admirers were taken aback. Reporters posed the question, how could Jackie's son arrive at such a predicament? But Jackie blamed no external party. He held himself accountable. He issued a public declaration stating, "I am mortified. I experience parental sorrow. JC must accept accountability, but I recognize this also stems from my deficiencies. I did not direct him effectively. I failed to be accessible during moments of critical importance." It was the most sincere public admission of fault Jackie had ever articulated. Beneath the powerful physique, the cheerful demeanor, and the fighter's spirit resided now a father brimming with regret. As Jackie entered his 5th and 6th decades, he initiated a more profound contemplation of his life. He reflected on his impoverished youth. He considered his endured hardships. He analyzed his professional ascent, but predominantly he pondered his enduring impact. He declared a startling resolution: Jackie Chan announced he would dedicate the vast majority of his amassed fortune to philanthropic endeavors upon his demise, not to his son. He stated if JC possesses the aptitude, he can generate his own revenue. If he lacks it, he wouldn't possess the knowledge to safeguard my fortune in any event. This garnered worldwide headlines. Certain people offered affirmation. Others expressed bewilderment. But Jackie clarified, I don't intend to bequeath monetary assets. I intend to pass on values. My wealth originated from enduring struggle. If my son doesn't grasp that struggle, the money will ultimately lead to his downfall. He desired for JC to acquire knowledge through the method Jackie himself learned. By falling, by experiencing failure, and by developing inner fortitude through those trials. Even with the totality of his accomplishments, Jackie now dedicates numerous days contemplating what he forfeited. He missed the comforting warmth of a father-son connection. He missed unrecorded youthful intervals. He missed discussions that held the potential to alter everything. He has conveyed in interviews, when you are younger, you assume finance constitutes paramountcy. You assume celebrity equates to influence. But as you age, you realize the most cherished elements of existence are affection, tranquility, and available opportunity. Jackie commenced engaging in expanded charitable activities, supporting educational establishments, homes for orphans, and nascent stunt coordinators. He became more active in public awareness campaigns, safety promotions, and the instruction of youth. He also started guiding emerging performers, offering them counsel he never received, as he wished for others to evade his own errors. Jackie Chan persists as an inspiration to countless individuals. But his lasting narrative isn't straightforward. Some critique his political perspectives. Some critique his methods of raising his child. Some feel let down by his handling of specific situations. But one point remains indisputable. Jackie never purported to be flawless. He consistently revealed his physical remnants, his traumas, and his shortcomings. And perhaps that very transparency is what grants his chronicle such potency. He is not a figure of pure fantasy. He is a man who ascended from physical duress, solitude, and uncertainty, who brought amusement and excitement to the planet, and who now, in quiet contemplation, assesses what truly merits his attention. And the initial individual that occupied his thoughts was his son. Jackie Chan was the father of J.C. Chan, born Part 3, the concluding collapses of Jackie Chan. A physique that sacrificed everything. By the time Jackie Chan reached his 60th year, he had devoted over 5 decades to tumbling, flipping, battling, colliding, and enduring. He was no longer solely an action performer. He had transformed into an emblem of bravery, self-sacrifice, and boundless vitality. But there existed one adversary that even Jackie couldn't vanquish: the passage of time. His musculature, once rigid as metal, had become constricted, sluggish, and painful. His skeletal structure, once pliable as elastic, had become rigid, aching, and emitting cracking sounds. His spirit, once restless with fierce ambition, had become placid, burdened, and reflective. Jackie Chan, the man who propelled himself through sheets of glass, leaped between moving vehicles, and descended from high edifices, now struggled with the most minimal physical movements. He couldn't flex with the same ease. He couldn't find slumber without discomfort. He couldn't run without feeling the restricting tension from accumulated years of bodily harm. But still, he resisted ceasing. By this stage of his life, Jackie's medical ledger resembled the records of a conflict veteran. He wasn't merely injured once or twice. He was almost fatally wounded more frequently than the majority of individuals can tally. Let's examine the genuine compilation. Skullfisher from Armor of God, where he narrowly escaped fatality and began leaking fluid from his auditory canals. Nasal bone fracture on more than 3 occasions. Multiple fractures of the phalanges. Dislocated shoulders numerous times. Fractured ribs. Countless instances of ankle breakage. One time necessitated wearing a sock colored like footwear just to finalize a feature. Pelvic impairment caused mobility difficulties for years. Teeth dislodged, subsequently repaired, and then lost again. Serious dermal scorching from pyrotechnics that malfunctioned. Permanent impairment to the auditory function in one ear. Dorsal region afflictions that still impede prolonged sitting. Chronic discomfort along the vertebral column from decades of physical abuse. And perhaps the most grievous component, the majority of these injuries were never completely remedied because Jackie consistently declined extended recovery periods. He would rest briefly, then return to the filming location. Why? Because he held the conviction, if I don't conclude the picture, the entire collective bears the consequence. I cannot disappoint them. That constituted Jackie's greatest asset and simultaneously his most significant vulnerability. He never prioritized his own needs first. Even past the age of 50, Jackie continued executing genuine high-risk maneuvers that the majority of actors wouldn't dare attempt at 25. In films like Who Am I? He slid down a 21-story facade of glass without any safety tethering. In Chinese Zodiac, he launched himself across chasms and engaged in rapid-fire automotive pursuits. In Skip Trace, he was submerged in frigid water for extended durations. In Vanguard, he executed several pursuit scenarios even subsequent to damaging his hip joint. Producers implored him to employ stunt performers. But Jackie consistently offered the identical rejoinder. If the spectator perceives my countenance in the frame, they accept it as truth. If they accept it, they feel it. That is my purpose. That was Jackie's dedicated objective, not solely to provide diversion, but to evoke a tangible sensation in the audience, even if it meant his own physical destruction. Following every shot, Jackie didn't depart the set beaming. He frequently limped back to his dressing area, clutching his back, applying ice to his lower limbs, sometimes weeping from the intensity of the ache. He struggled to sleep soundly. He had difficulty remaining upright for prolonged spells. His hands would tremor after every staged confrontation, and occasionally he required physical assistance just to remove his costume. But the moment the camera illuminated, he reverted to Jackie Chan, because he was aware there were individuals observing that film who were navigating their own struggles with affliction, despair, and low spirits. If I can elicit a smile from them for even 10 seconds, it justifies the entire ordeal. That was his underlying philosophy. And that is why the global public adores him, not solely for his proficiency, but for his compassion. As Jackie entered his 60s, his medical practitioners commenced issuing cautions. They stated, "You cannot sustain another impact of that magnitude. If you strike your head once more, you risk amnesia. One incorrect movement could render you permanently immobile." But Jackie persisted, because to halt meant confronting something for which he felt completely unprepared. Silence. For over 50 years he had existed under the gaze of illumination apparatuses. He had been the focal point on set environments, the commander of production crews, the individual who initiated the dangerous action first. If he ceased, he wouldn't recognize his own identity anymore. So, rather than executing a full retirement, Jackie selected a divergent trajectory. He would gradually pivot from physically demanding action to mentorship, from falling visibly on film to elevating others away from the spotlight. But this alteration wasn't effortless. Jackie began channeling resources into emerging performers and stunt cadres. He educated them, provided them meals, protected them, and granted them prospects in the same manner he himself was never aided. He established scholarship funds, inaugurated training facilities, financed film academies, and advised every youthful actor, "Do not imitate my path. Draw instruction from my experiences and then surpass them." He also commenced undertaking more voice performance roles, such as Master Monkey in Kung Fu Panda. It was less physically demanding, but equally impactful because Jackie realized a critical truth. Even if I cannot execute the same feats, I can still motivate. That became his fresh engagement, utilizing his life narrative to uplift others. In recent epochs, Jackie has begun accepting laurels for lifetime contributions from various global bodies. When he finally received his honorary Academy Award at the Oscars, he remarked, "Following 56 years in this vocation, following participation in over 200 motion pictures, following the fracturing of so many skeletal elements, I finally possess one of these prestigious tokens. Thank you." He managed a smile, yet his eyes were moist because he recalled the hardwood floors of the China Drama Academy, the rejections faced in Hollywood, the cracked skulls, the broken heart, and the years spent waiting for the world to comprehend his inherent value. He also delivered an address in Beijing where he candidly stated, "If I were afforded a subsequent lifetime, I wouldn't repeat the sequence of events. This is not due to a lack of devotion for my admirers, but because I desire to exist one lifetime entirely devoid of physical suffering." That was the most forthright statement he had ever uttered. Even legends experience exhaustion. Jackie Chan's physical being surrendered everything within its capacity. It bent, fractured, bled, and transported his ambition across the globe. But now, this era is concluded. The gradual transition. A body that offered its all. He is moderating his pace now. He can no longer leap with his previous agility. He no longer engages in combat with the identical stylization. He exercises prudence in his selections. But within that decelerated tempo resides profound insight. There resides inner calm, because Jackie has furnished irrefutable evidence of his worth. He has no mandate to plummet further, as the global audience has already elevated him in his stead. Part 4. The final applause. Jackie Chan's concluding era. The recording apparatuses are more subdued presently. The perilous maneuvers are sparser. The throngs still erupt with his designation, but Jackie no longer rushes to the parapet's edge, prepared for a plunge. He proceeds deliberately now. His smiles are now gentler. He rests for longer intervals, inhales more deeply, and speaks with greater deliberation. Because subsequent to spending upwards of 60 orbits of the sun under intense public scrutiny, subsequent to shattering nearly every osseous structure in his frame, subsequent to ascending from destitution to worldwide renown, subsequent to misplacing his direction, rediscovering it and then faltering once more, Jackie Chan is no longer pursuing the subsequent box office smash. He is pursuing an altogether different objective, something he disregarded for the majority of his lifespan. Serenity. Presently, Jackie inhabits a more leisurely, less intricate existence. He still participates in cinema sporadically, yet solely in roles that are meticulously scrutinized. He steers clear of hazardous feats presently. He grants deference to his advancing years. He heeds the signals from his physical form. The greater part of his days are now dedicated to instructing junior performers, drafting and evaluating screenplays, participating in philanthropic occasions, journeying to deliver addresses at academies and centers of higher learning, sitting quietly amidst natural settings, engaging in reading, contemplation, or reminiscence. He frequently visits his former cadre of stunt coordinators, many of whom are similarly confronting old age, physical ailments, or retirement. They exchange personal anecdotes. They share laughter. At times they weep. Because those men are the sole ones who genuinely comprehend the agony, the apprehension, and the glory of what they relinquished for the seventh art. Jackie covers their requisite medical expenditures, provides for their kin, and consistently asserts, absent their contributions, there would have been no Jackie Chan. This defines his current persona, not merely a celebrity, but a custodian for those who constructed his stature. Jackie is acutely aware that one day his presence will conclude. Thus, his focus is now concentrated on his legacy. He is actively funding the construction of film museums designed to safeguard the heritage of Hong Kong cinema and martial arts history. He supports educational institutions for juveniles originating from impoverished circumstances, particularly in provincial locales, along with bursaries for aspiring directors and actors. He sponsors specialized facilities for stunt coordination to ensure the art of authentic action persists. He is compiling comprehensive archives of all his features, supplemental takes, accounts of injuries, and material captured behind the scenes. Furthermore, he is authoring supplementary literature, letters and personal reflections for those seeking wisdom from his journey. But Jackie shuns the idea of being remembered solely as a cinematic figure. He aspires to be recalled as an individual who expended every resource he possessed and then volunteered even more. Jackie has been exceptionally candid regarding the effects of aging. In one discussion, he confided, "There are mornings when I awaken and lack certainty if I can proceed in a straight manner. My knee joints throb. My spinal structure sends sharp signals. My digits are unresponsive. But then I recall that this was my deliberate undertaking." He no longer feels bitterness over his sustained injuries. He accepts them as the requisite toll for pursuing an ambitious vision. But with that acceptance has bloomed a fresh realization. The physical structure decays, yet the intellect must recover. Time is finite. Individuals depart. Material wealth depreciates. Suffering imparts lessons. And connection outweighs global notoriety. He has now attained a vantage point in existence where he declares, "I desire no further opulent residences. I require no additional trophies. I simply wish for the world to evolve into a marginally superior environment due to my participation in it." Fame does not equate to camaraderie. Jackie commands millions of devoted viewers, yet possesses very few individuals who genuinely comprehend him. He has confessed in numerous conversations that he sometimes experiences profound solitude. He traverses aviation terminals and masses shout his title. He occupies a dining establishment, and total strangers solicit photographic documentation. He consistently provides a pleasant facade, but deep within he sometimes muses, "Do they value me? Or merely the characterization they observed on celluloid?" That is the unspoken affliction borne by icons. Everyone knows their designation, but scant few apprehend their inner essence. And Jackie, even now, occasionally feels like that young boy at the China Drama Academy, striving for fortitude when absolutely no observer is present. Over the years, Jackie has engaged in thousands of interviews, formal addresses, and lectures. But there is one core concept he persistently reiterates to the emerging cohort. Do not seek facile accomplishment. Seek meaningful substance. Do not mimic contemporaries. Establish your own route. Do not pursue mere recognition. Pursue personal development. Do not cease effort when pain is acute. That is precisely where genuine strength is forged. He cautions young actors, do not perceive me as fortunate. I toiled through injury and bloodshed. I was ridiculed, chastised, doubted, yet I never paused my endeavor. He tells them, the most fulfilling existence is not the path of least resistance. It is the one where you can truthfully state, I committed my complete effort. And that is the essential memory Jackie desires you to retain. Not his cinematic works, not his acrobatic feats, not his celebrity status, but his diligence, his unwavering focus, his ingrained structure. In his later lifespan, Jackie commenced receiving the international accolades for which he waited decades, the Oscar for Lifetime Achievement, BAFTA honors, honorary degrees from academic institutions, monuments erected in Hong Kong and Hollywood, thoroughfares bearing his name, and his designation as a UNICEF emissary for children's rights. But each occasion he accepts these tributes, he inclines his head and states, I am not inherently superior to others. I simply possess the resolve not to discontinue striving. He reminds the global community, I was an unknown. I scrubbed floors. I hauled electrical conduits. I consumed meals on substandard staging areas. I bled onto frigid pavement. I am merely the outcome of what transpires when your affection for your vocation surpasses your desire for personal comfort. In recent times, Jackie has started discussing mortality with measured yet sincere reflection. He doesn't fear it, but he aims to be prepared. He desires his closing years to be constructive, not merely indulgent. He wishes to impart his accumulated wisdom, not merely repose in luxury. He seeks to leave a discernible pathway for others to follow, not an entrenched position that will inevitably fade. He once remarked, one day my name will cease to trend, my visage will blur, but if I executed my responsibilities correctly, some young man somewhere will persist because of my example. That is sufficient. That is the entirety. He also documented, mortality awaits us all. But not everyone truly lives prior to its arrival. I lived authentically. I gave without reservation. I can depart with tranquility. Even amidst the tranquility Jackie now seeks, one affliction remains incompletely healed, his kinship with his son. Their relationship has experienced improvement, but it is not flawless. They communicate periodically. They convene occasionally. But Jackie comprehends. You can mend a structure, yet you cannot always repair a ruptured childhood. He doesn't conceal this persistent sorrow. Instead, he utilizes it as instruction. He advises contemporary fathers, your progeny don't require a hero. They require your presence. Avoid repeating the same error I committed. This constitutes, perhaps, his deepest pang of regret and his most profound realization. In a direct exchange with an interviewer, the host inquired, what memory do you hope people retain after you are gone? Jackie paused, then responded, I wish they'll state that he dedicated his existence to serving others. Not just on screen, but outside the set. He never yielded. He didn't feign flawlessness. He brought smiles to faces. He rendered individuals more robust. He exemplified what it means to cherish your profession, your associates, and your inherent struggles. He smiled, then added, and perhaps they'll view one of my older productions and still experience the sensation that I am present, executing that leap, engaging in combat, collapsing, and rising once more for a final performance. This is not exclusively the account of Jackie Chan. This is a chronicle concerning fighting even when belief wavers, smiling amidst internal distress, falling repeatedly and regaining your footing each juncture, developing something tangible from absolute zero, ascending to legendary status, not through perfection, but through sheer tenacity. He was never the tallest, never the mightiest, never the swiftest, but he outworked every competitor, and he never ceased his exertion. He evolved beyond an actor. He became a lesson. Thus, when you contemplate Jackie Chan going forward, do not confine your thoughts to the action star alone. Contemplate the youth who was cast aside, the man who faced constant skepticism, the parent whose spirit was fractured, the physical form that was systematically damaged, the luminary who maintained forward momentum. Contemplate the individual who expended everything so that you might cultivate conviction in some ideal. If this narrative resonated within your core, if you absorbed a powerful precept today, if you desire more genuine, emotional, life-altering accounts such as this that concurrently aid your English mastery with every viewing, then subscribe immediately and become an active participant in something genuinely compelling. Because this is more than merely a broadcast source. This is an expedition toward eminence, and it has only just commenced. We thank you for viewing. Now, proceed to execute your life with the same intensity Jackie did, with zeal burning in your spirit and fearlessness in your descent.